Well, I've one. That's Eli's Cure 2075. That is a cyberpunk science fiction short film about a guy who has a cure for cancer. And we've never had a cure for cancer before, and he's doing whatever he can to save mankind and beat the rich from taking all these drugs and to keep their immune systems alive during the disease of what's happening in 2075. The other film is called Toxic Betrayal, and it is a sequel to the horror comedy Caution Spikes, where we have our characters Jack Peterson, the main protagonist who is a hunter, and his fellow sidekick Penelope Whistlestuff, who is a paranormal investigator down in the bayou of Louisiana, and they find Spikes, who is apparently a monster or leader, but they don't know whether it is a friend or a foe that they are encountering. And with the Monsanto chemical company on the other side, they don't know what to do and how to figure out what is going on until they find out something mysterious. So, my biggest inspiration that first came to mind was the subgenre of cyberpunk. I've seen many cyberpunk things out in the world, and I've always studied cyberpunk. I'm obsessed with it. And not only was it just the look of it I was studying and everything, but I wanted to put it in that year to not only show what people would look like and this, but I wanted to show what could possibly happen that year if racism was still around, or if global tension or global warming was still around, or if there was any kind of problems that would still be around once we hit that year. And the cure for cancer, it was meaningful to me in a way, because I hope that one day we do have a cure for cancer, even though everybody keeps saying no. For me, I hope that, I believe that it will happen, and I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if we have to wait 500 years or 1,000 years, there will be a cure for cancer. So it might not be in 2075, or maybe it will be. I don't know, but that was the biggest inspiration behind it. And despite the cyberpunk feel of the holograms and artificial intelligence and robots and cybernetic augmentation, the cure for cancer was the story that I wanted to tell. The very big difficulties of making this one was it was definitely out of my comfort zone, which I love to make horror films mainly. And this was a big step for me because this was like my first sci-fi I ever made. And I had to keep studying, and it was hard because it's hard to make a short indie film in 2075. It's extremely difficult. And I'd say finding props was difficult. Finding a location and a set just to make it futuristic was extremely difficult. Some of my actors were pretty difficult to work with because they were going on and off, and this was filmed in less than a month. It was filmed in only 23 days before my school was over and everybody had to go home. So I was constantly everywhere, and costuming was hard. But of course we drew that stuff, and once I drew it, then it came to life. And I'd say probably lighting was also pretty hard, and everything was extremely hard about it. But I have the most fun directing and imagining my shots of what I want them to look like. That's the biggest thing to me when it comes to filmmaking. Before I even start writing or before I even come up with the idea, random shots appear in my head out of nowhere, and I envision them so strongly that that's when the storyboarding comes in. And I love to storyboard. I love to draw. I've been drawing since I was a kid, and I've been drawing a bunch of horror stuff when I was little. And when I draw the shots, it makes me so happy because I know that when I get to see the shot that I drew, and when I put it on the camera, I said, hey, there it is. That's the shot I've been wanting to see on the screen. And just cinematography itself is such a beautiful art, and that's my favorite part about making my films is drawing, making the shot come to life. Some of it was super fun. The glasses in the film, I thought they didn't even exist because I kept seeing it as a fictional thing online, and I thought they wouldn't come till later in the future. But when I found them, I was exactly what I found. That was the most amazing part to me, and everything else with the other designs and the shirt or everything was quite stressful because money was put into it, and I had no idea. I didn't really have a finalization of what it would look like because it's very tough to predict what somebody will even look like 70-something years from now. It's difficult, but I kept patting it down and just I wouldn't give up, and I found a way. I established it, and I finally took it to the costume designer and I said, hey, this is what they need to be. And the process has been quite a journey. In high school, I started out on an iPhone, of course, and just but vertically. But it wasn't back then. But everybody starts somewhere. That's the thing. And I kept making short films in high school. Now I'm currently going to be a junior in college. I can't believe it's been 4.5 years I've been doing this, and I'm taking all kinds of film classes. Some of them are very, very great, and some of them I wish they were amazing, and I wish I learned more. But that's when I'm doing whatever I can to learn for myself. The cinematography class and the film production classes are my favorite because they pick the directors and they picked me, and they say make whatever you want, whatever genre. But not all of them do that because some of them want you to make what they want you to make. We don't want you to just make a genre of a film. We either want you to tell a story visually with specific shots that we want, because there's so many shots in cinematography. There's the close-up, the medium close-up, the dollies zoom back, the dollies zoom out. There's thousands of shots I have to learn, and that's what it's like in school right now. I probably still have, I'm not even 100% learning. I'm still learning. I'm still going to be learning after school, and that's how it's going to go. Spikes was something that came later on, but what came first was when my mom and I we were out hiking one day, and I saw a sign that said caution, and you can't go beyond this trail. I said, well, that sounds pretty scary. I mean, is there something back there on that trail or whatever? And I pretty much that's when the drawing came in, because I had made so many short films before. I said, I already have a ghost. I've already made demons. I want to make my own monster, because I got a lot of inspiration from other films that made their own monsters, like The Creature from the Black Lagoon or Frankenstein and all those guys. And I said, yeah, I'm going to make my own. And I did several different drawing concepts, and I made something with big old spikes on its head. But it had so many things on it, I said, well, I don't want to call it this or whatever. Since it has spikes on its head, I'll call it Spikes, and I'll put Caution Spikes together. And that's how the whole thing came to be. And with Toxic Betrayal, the whole story of that one, it is the sequel. And we called it Toxic Betrayal because it had a whole different story to people living off the grid. And people still live off the grid to this day, and we don't really see it, but they live on their own, and they don't want to interfere with the government. They want to be their own society. They want to have their own laws and their own rules, kind of like a cult almost, but not exactly a cult. And we got the chemical company in that because the chemical company and these oil spills are still affecting our waters and making people sick and giving babies deformities and everything. And we decided to give it that because Spikes was not the only person or only monster around. He had other friends with him on the island that were being harmed by the chemical company. So that was the direction that was in, and I hope from there we have a trilogy. It really was, especially coming up with my own names. Like when I came up with my own names, I was like, wow, this is it. Look at this guy. It just, I'd never been so happy in my life, and just the design was cool. And then when they got into the actual costume of the monster and we're walking around, I'm like, there it is. This is what I had on paper, and now it's walking around and doing creepy stuff and blood. And yes, the goal is to keep adding more monsters, actually, because there was more monsters because of the chemicals that messed up their bodies. And I was focusing on species that lived in the waters, like with one of the creatures named Octus, who had the head of an octopus and half squid. They were near the bayou in the waters, and the human turned into that, and that's where they become so-called shapeshifters. They're humans, but they turn into monsters. And then they shapeshift back to their human form, and that's how it all came to be. Focusing on shorts, but I hope to do a feature here pretty soon in the next couple of years. After school would probably be the best decision, because I'll have everything and probably be on my own. A feature, if I was doing that in school now, it'd take up all the school years, and I'd probably have to skip all my classes just to make a feature. But shorts is what my focus right now. So much happened, but there's one dangerous one I'd like to tell. It wasn't funny, it was dangerous. My mom and I, when we filmed the last scene of Toxic Betrayal, the scene where they meet the three monsters on the island, we had to take a kayak. It was a pretty good miles away. We had to go to that island, maybe a couple miles of rowing. And we got there and we saw the island. It wasn't far from us. And I said, it looks pretty easy to walk over there to shore and get out of this boat and walk. Well, the very moment we got out of the kayak, we sinked in the mud. It was like quicksand. So I had to get myself out of that. Luckily, I was wearing heavy boots and my hunter outfit and everything. I got out easily. For her, it was dangerous because she was wearing shorts and flip-flops, and we realized that she couldn't be in the mud any longer because gators like to cool off in there. And you know, the gator is one of the main things in the state of Florida. So it was dangerous because I had to call her friend and everything and call my monster actors to come help, and she couldn't get out. She was stuck, and I didn't know what to do. I tried not to panic, and I finally got one of the big paddles and just see if she can pull on it, and she could barely get out. I pulled and she got out, and we were afraid of that mud. We didn't want to get near it ever again. So I thought to myself, I can't even imagine if I got that on film or that on screen, because that would have been genuine. It wasn't just acting, but genuine. So that was dangerous. Funny stories? Oh boy, when we were filming Caution Spikes, our Spikes monster had so much fun. Man, he loved being a monster and just scaring us and scaring everybody. Well, when we were at the park filming, he decided to just sit down because he blended in so well. He had all the plants and the leaves on him with the pine trees, and he just sat there and we're waiting for people on the trail and just scared him to death. And there was an elderly couple. One lady laughed. The old man was reading a newspaper and went and freaked out and got really mad. One lady got freaked out with her dog, and the dog ran away and started growling at Spikes. And then one people thought it was him in like a ghillie suit. So those were some fun times. I'm
hoping you got something else.
I want to say I love making horror and sci-fi specifically, and I hope to keep challenging myself in the future, whether it is still horror or whether it is another different kind of genre. I hope to one day just make the best sci-fi and horror movies I can, to be the next great horror or sci-fi filmmaker, and to hopefully one day own my own film production company, just like Jason Blum did. He has his own Blumhouse production company with his films by Blumhouse, and that inspires me, and I hope to make that happen one day.